The smell of rosemary and garlic roast chicken filled the dining room, a scent that usually brought me a sense of accomplishment. I had spent 4 hours in the kitchen, carefully basting the bird, mashing the potatoes with just the right amount of heavy cream, and setting the table with Mom's good china. It was my parents' 42nd anniversary, and as usual, I was the one behind the scenes making sure everything looked perfect. I wiped a smudge of gravy off the edge of a serving platter and adjusted my glasses. I was wearing my favorite comfortable sweater, a soft charcoal gray knit that I'd had for 5 years, and a pair of simple black slacks. It wasn't high fashion, but it was clean, practical, and kept me warm in the drafty house my grandmother had left to me, the house where I allowed my parents to live rent-free. Camila, move the salad fork to the left. Good Lord, you're 32. You should know how to set a table by now. My mother, Linda, snapped from the living room, not bothering to look up from her iPad. It is on the left, Mom, I replied quietly, my voice barely carrying over the sound of the TV. The front door swung open, bringing in a gust of cold autumn air and the overwhelming scent of expensive, cloying perfume. We're here. Sorry we're late. Finding parking for the Lexus is a nightmare in this neighborhood, a high-pitched voice announced. It was Tiffany, my brother Brad's fiancée. She breezed in, tossing her designer coat onto the entryway bench I had just dusted. Brad followed behind her, looking flushed and slightly disheveled, carrying a bottle of wine that I knew cost less than the water bill I paid every month. Happy anniversary, folks, Brad boomed, hugging Mom. Tiffany didn't hug anyone. She stood in the archway of the dining room, her eyes scanning the table, then the walls, and finally landing on me. She looked me up and down, a small, pitying smile playing on her lips that had clearly seen a few too many fillers. "Oh, Camilla," she said, her voice loud enough for the neighbors to hear. "You are still wearing that gray sweater? Didn't you wear that last Christmas and Easter?" My father, Robert, chuckled from his recliner. "Camilla isn't exactly known for her fashion sense, Tiff. She's frugal, or, what's the word? Cheap." My stomach tightened. I gripped the back of a dining chair. "It's comfortable, Tiffany, and I've been cooking all day, so—" No, it's fine, really," she interrupted, waving a manicured hand dismissively. She walked over to me, invading my personal space. She smelled of white wine and condescension. "It's just adorable. You really embrace that spinster librarian vibe. It's brave. I actually have a bag of old clothes in my trunk I was going to drop at Goodwill. There's a Prada blouse with a small stain on the collar. You can have it. It would be a huge upgrade for you." The room went silent for a second. I looked at Brad, waiting for my big brother to defend me. To say, "Hey, don't talk to my sister like that." Instead, Brad laughed, a short, sharp bark of a laugh. "Babe, don't waste Prada on Camilla. She wouldn't know how to dry clean it. She'd probably wash it in the sink with dish soap." Mom and Dad joined in the laughter. It wasn't a warm sound. It was the sound of a family that had comfortably settled into a hierarchy where I was at the bottom. "I don't need your charity, Tiffany," I said, keeping my voice steady, though my heart was hammering against my ribs. "Please sit down. Dinner is ready." We sat. I served everyone. I poured the wine Brad had brought. "So," Dad said, cutting into the chicken I had paid for and cooked, "Tiffany, tell us about work. Brad says you're up for a massive promotion." Tiffany beamed, straightening her posture. She worked as a project manager at Vanguard Tech Solutions, a massive financial technology firm. "Oh, it's practically a done deal, Robert. I'm leading the development of a new AI algorithm for fraud detection. Well, I'm managing the team, which means I'm the brains behind the operation. The coders are just worker bees, you know? They type what I tell them to type." I took a sip of water to hide my expression. I knew Vanguard Tech. I knew it very well. "That sounds incredible, sweetheart," Mom gushed. See, Camilla, that's what a career looks like, not whatever it is you do on that laptop all day. Data entry, typing captions. I'm a freelance software consultant, Mom, I corrected her for the 100th time. Freelance, Tiffany snorted, picking at the roast potatoes. That's code for unemployed but trying to look busy, isn't it? Look, Camila, if you need cash, Vanguard is looking for janitorial staff. I could probably pull some strings. The benefits are decent. You could finally get a dental plan. I have a dental plan, I said, my grip on the silverware tightening until my knuckles turned white. And I own my own home. This home. Inherited, Brad shot back, his mouth full of food. Grandma left it to you because she felt sorry for you, because she knew no guy was ever going to buy you a house. Don't act like you earned it. Brad, I snapped. What? He threw his hands up. We're just telling the truth. You sit here in this big house, hoarding it, while Tiff and I are trying to start a life in a cramped apartment. It's selfish, honestly. Selfish? I stared at him. I pay the property taxes, I pay the utilities, I pay for Mom and Dad's groceries. How is that selfish? You pay for groceries, Tiffany laughed, a cruel tinkling sound. Oh, honey, that's cute. Brad and I are talking about building an empire, real estate, tech, the future. You're worried about the price of eggs? We are not on the same level. She leaned forward, her eyes gleaming with malice. You know, at the engagement party, maybe you shouldn't sit at the head table with us. It might confuse people. You can sit near the kitchen. It'll be easier for you to help the servers clear the plates. My mother nodded in agreement. That's a good idea, Tiffany. We don't want Camilla feeling awkward surrounded by successful people. She's better off where she's comfortable, in the background. I looked around the table, my family, eating my food, drinking wine in my house, discussing how to hide me away like a dirty secret. The injustice of it didn't burn like fire. It felt like ice, settling deep in my chest. I didn't scream. I didn't flip the table. I just smiled, a thin, tight smile. Whatever you say, I whispered. I wouldn't want to ruin the image. The week following the anniversary dinner was a blur of emotional exhaustion. But in my family, emotional exhaustion usually came with a price tag attached. It was Tuesday evening when I got the text from Mom. Emergency family meeting. Living room, now. I was in my home office, the small sunroom at the back of the house that I had converted into a workspace. 3 monitors hummed on my desk, displaying streams of complex code and market analytics. To my parents, this was just video games or typing. To the financial world, I was Ghost, a legendary freelance architect of high-frequency trading algorithms. My latest project, Aegis, was currently being bid on by 3 major banks. My net worth sat comfortably in the mid-8 figures, diversified across offshore accounts, blind trusts, and conservative index funds. I minimized my screens, locked the door with my biometric keypad, and walked to the living room. Mom was pacing. Dad was sitting with his head in his hands. Brad was there too, looking like a kicked puppy, while Tiffany examined her fingernails on the sofa. "What's wrong?" I asked, leaning against the doorframe. "It's Brad," Mom sobbed. "He's in trouble. Terrible trouble." My internal alarm bells didn't ring. They just sighed. Gambling or investment? "It was a sure thing," Brad burst out, jumping up. "Crypto futures. My buddy told me it was going to moon. I borrowed some money." "How much, Brad?" I asked, my voice flat. 50,000, Dad groaned. "And the loan sharks, well, they aren't sharks, they're private investors, but they want the money back by Friday, or they sue. They'll garnish his wages, he'll lose his real estate license, he'll go to jail." "He doesn't have any wages to garnish, Dad," I pointed out. "He hasn't sold a house in 6 months." "Don't kick him when he's down," Mom shrieked, turning on me with sudden ferocity. He's your brother. He tried to make something of himself. Unlike you sitting on your butt all day, he took a risk to provide for his future family. Tiffany chimed in, not looking up from her nails. Ideally, we need the debt cleared before the engagement party invites go out next week. It would look so bad if there were legal rumors circulating. We don't have that kind of cash liquid, Dad said, looking at me. But you do. I froze. Excuse me? Grandma's life insurance, Mom said quickly. The money she left you. We know you haven't touched it. You're too stingy to spend it. There must be 50,000 in there. There was. There was a lot more than that. But that wasn't the point. That was my inheritance, I said slowly. Grandma left that to me specifically because she knew you guys spent Brad's college fund on his business ideas back in 2015. It's a loan, Brad pleaded, stepping toward me, grabbing my hands. His palms were sweaty. Mila, please, I swear, once the wedding is over, Tiffany is going to get a huge bonus from this AI project. We'll pay you back with interest. Double, I promise. I'm your big brother. You can't let me go to jail. I looked at him. I saw the fear in his eyes. But underneath it, I saw the entitlement. He didn't think he was asking for a favor. He thought he was making a withdrawal from an account he owned. But then I looked at my parents. They were aging. Dad's blood pressure was already sky high. If Brad went down, the stress might actually kill them. And despite everything, the biological tether of family tugged at my gut. Fine, I said, pulling my hands away. I'll wire the money. But this is it, the absolute last time. I'm draining the account. There is nothing left after this. Oh, thank God, Mom cried, hugging Brad. She hugged Brad. My poor baby, it's going to be okay. I went to my room, pulled up my banking app, and transferred $50,000 from a decoy savings account I kept for appearances. I labeled the transfer, Loan Brad, Final. The next evening, I came downstairs to get a glass of water and heard them in the kitchen. They didn't hear me approach. I'm just so proud of you, Brad, Dad was saying. His voice was thick with emotion. You handled that problem like a man. You found a solution. Yeah, well, Brad's voice was smug. I knew how to leverage the family assets. You gotta be aggressive in this market. And honestly, Tiffany's voice cut in, it's better that the money is with us. Camilla would have just wasted it on, I don't know, cat food and books. Investing in Brad's career is investing in the family legacy. Exactly, Mom agreed. She should be grateful she could help. It gives her a purpose. I stood in the hallway, the cool glass of water in my hand. I stared at the dark reflection of myself in the hallway mirror. She should be grateful. They didn't see me as a person. I wasn't a daughter or a sister. I was an ATM with a pulse, a resource to be mined until dry. I poured the water down the drain of the hallway bathroom sink. The sound of the rushing water covered the sound of my heart breaking, finally and completely. The sadness was evaporating, replaced by a cold, hard clarity. Okay, I whispered to the empty hallway. You want to talk about leverage? Let's talk about leverage. 2 days later, on a Thursday afternoon, I came home from a rare outing to the grocery store to find a silver BMW parked in my driveway. Tiffany's car. My stomach dropped. I hadn't invited her. My parents were out at a doctor's appointment. I entered the house quietly through the side door that led into the laundry room. The house was silent, but I could hear movement upstairs, in my office area. I left the groceries on the dryer and crept through the kitchen, taking off my shoes to move silently on the hardwood floors. As I approached the hallway, I heard Tiffany's voice. She was on the phone. No, babe, I'm telling you, it's perfect. The old people are out, and the spinster is probably out buying yarn or whatever. I pressed my back against the wall, listening. Yeah, I'm on her laptop now. Her password was password123. Pathetic. It wasn't. My guest laptop, the decoy one I left in the living room, had a simple password. My actual workstations were encrypted with military-grade security, but she didn't know that. "I'm installing the keylogger now," Tiffany said. A chill ran down my spine that had nothing to do with the temperature. Once we get her banking logins, we can see exactly what's left of that inheritance. Brad says she claimed she drained it, but I don't buy it. Rats like her always hide cheese. She paused, laughing at something the person on the other end said. It wasn't Brad. The tone was too flirtatious, too sharp. "Listen, Mark, don't worry about the house. That's phase 2. Once Brad and I are married, we're going to declare Linda and Robert incompetent, put them in a home, a cheap one. Then, as Brad's wife, I'll have power of attorney. We kick Camilla to the curb, sell this dusty old museum, and that's our seed money for the startup. We'll be living in Malibu by next year." My breath hitched. They weren't just greedy, they were planning to dismantle my entire life. They were going to institutionalize my parents, the parents who worshipped them, and throw me onto the street. "Yeah, I know," Tiffany continued, her voice dripping with disdain. "She's so stupid. She actually thinks we like her. She paid off Brad's debt thinking it would buy her a seat at the table. God, seeing her in those rags makes me want to vomit. She's a placeholder, Mark, a placeholder until the real owners take over." I heard the distinct sound of a USB drive being pulled out of a port. "All right, the spyware is active. I'm leaving. I'll meet you at the hotel in an hour. Don't start without me." She was cheating on Brad with a guy named Mark, and they were conspiring to destroy my family. Something inside me snapped. It wasn't a loud snap. It was the sound of a heavy steel door slamming shut and locking. The weeping, hurt little girl who just wanted mommy and daddy to love her died in that hallway. In her place stood the architect, the woman who built systems that could predict market crashes and dismantle corporations. I waited until I heard her footsteps on the stairs, then I quickly retreated to the laundry room, grabbed the grocery bags, and deliberately knocked a can of soup onto the floor. Clatter bang. "Hello?" I called out, feigning surprise. "Mom? Dad?" Tiffany froze on the landing. I walked out, looking flustered. "Oh, Tiffany," I said, clutching a bag of apples. "You startled me. I didn't know you were here." Tiffany composed herself instantly, a fake smile plastering over her predatory face. "Camila, hi!" "I was just dropping off those old clothes I promised you. I left them in your room." "Oh, thank you," I said, widening my eyes innocently. "That's so generous." "Well, gotta run. Busy. She brushed past me, checking her watch. As the front door closed, I dropped the act. My face went slack, completely devoid of emotion. I walked upstairs to the guest laptop. I didn't remove the spyware, not yet. Instead, I sat down at my secure workstation in the locked sunroom. I cracked my knuckles. "You want to play surveillance, Tiffany?" I muttered to the glowing screens. "Let's play." I initiated Protocol 0. It was a script I usually reserved for hostile corporate takeovers. Within 10 minutes, I had breached the firewall of her phone via the Bluetooth connection she had established with my guest laptop. I turned on her microphone remotely. I accessed her GPS history. I pulled her deleted emails. And then I opened a new file on my secure server. I named it _receipts. For the next 2 weeks, I was a ghost in my own life. I cooked, I cleaned, I nodded when my parents criticized my hair or my cooking, but every night, while the house slept, I was hunting. I discovered that Tiffany wasn't just a cheater, she was a fraud in every sense of the word. Reviewing her work emails, which I accessed easily since she used the same password for her corporate mail as she did for her Sephora account, I found the truth about her promotion. She wasn't leading the AI team. She was terrorizing them. I found email chains where she bullied interns into sending her their code, which she then repackaged and presented to the executives as her own. But the real gold was a folder she had labeled Project Phoenix. I opened the files and nearly laughed out loud. It was a mess. She was trying to build a predictive algorithm for Vanguard Tech, but the code was broken. It was a patchwork of stolen scripts from GitHub and Stack Overflow that didn't talk to each other. But then I saw a note in her draft folder. Target, Auditly, source code, needs access. Auditly, that was one of my shell companies. She was trying to steal my code. She didn't know it was mine, of course. She just knew it was the best in the market. I needed help. I needed a face for my operation. I drove into the city the next morning, telling my mother I was going to a job interview for a receptionist position. Good, Mom had said. Maybe you'll meet a nice man in the waiting room. I drove past the temp agencies and pulled into the underground garage of a sleek glass tower in the financial district. I took the private elevator to the penthouse. Arthur Sterling was waiting for me. At 75, Arthur was a legend on Wall Street. He was also the only person who knew the true extent of my empire. He was my proxy, my mentor, and the father figure I wished I had. Camila, he said warmly, standing up from his mahogany desk to embrace me. You look tired, my dear. I'm exhausted, Arthur, I admitted, sinking into a leather chair. But I need a favor, a big one. I laid it all out. The debt, the insults, the plan to sell my house, the cheating, the stolen code. Arthur listened, his face hardening like stone. When I finished, he didn't offer platitudes. He leaned forward, his eyes sharp. They have mistaken your kindness for weakness, he said. A fatal error. Tiffany is presenting her new project to the CEO of Vanguard, Eleanor Vance, in 3 weeks, I said. At the engagement party, she wants to turn the party into a networking event/victory lap. Arthur nodded. Eleanor, I know her. She's a shark, but she hates liars. If Tiffany is presenting a broken product, she's dead in the water. She's not presenting a broken product, I said, a small, dangerous smile playing on my lips. I'm going to fix it for her. Arthur raised an eyebrow. You're going to help her? I'm going to give her exactly what she wants, I explained. She installed spyware on my guest laptop, hoping to find banking info. Instead, I'm going to plant a folder there, a folder labeled confidential_source code. Inside, I'm going to put a version of my Aegis algorithm. But why give her your best work? It won't be the real Aegis, I said. It will be a Trojan horse. It will look like a functional, brilliant predictive model. It will run perfectly in simulations, but on the back end, I'm going to hard code a trigger, a dead man switch. When does it activate? Arthur asked, realizing the plan. It activates when it detects a specific biometric signature, I said, mine. Or when it connects to the main server at Vanguard, which I can control remotely because I secretly own a controlling stake in their parent company's holding group. Arthur laughed, a deep belly laugh. You own Vanguard? Through the Shell Corp in Singapore, I shrugged. I bought it last year when the stock dipped. Eleanor Vance works for me. She just doesn't know it yet. So, Arthur mused, Tiffany is going to steal your code, present it to your employee at a party you're paying for? Exactly. But I need you to be there, Arthur. I need you to bring Eleanor. And I need legal papers drawn up, separation of assets for the house, and a cease and desist for the intellectual property. Consider it done, Arthur said. But Camilla, are you ready for the fallout? Your family? They won't forgive you for this. I looked out the window at the city skyline. They don't have to forgive me, Arthur. They just have to fear me. I'm done being the daughter. It's time to be the landlord. The trap was set. I placed the honeypot folder on the guest laptop. Within 6 hours, my surveillance logs showed that Tiffany had accessed the machine remotely and copied the files. She didn't even check the code. She was so arrogant, so desperate, she just took it. A week before the engagement party, we had to attend a barbecue at Aunt Sarah's house. Sarah was my cousin, a bubbly, somewhat shallow woman who usually followed the wind of whoever was most popular in the family. Lately, she had been Tiffany's shadow. I wore jeans and a t-shirt. Tiffany wore a white sundress and a wide-brimmed hat, looking like she had stepped out of a magazine. "Everyone, listen up," Brad shouted, clinking a beer bottle with a fork. "Tiff and I have big news. The date is set, the venue is booked, the Grand Oak Country Club." The family cheered. The Grand Oak was expensive, ridiculously so. "How are we affording this?" Aunt Sarah asked, impressed. "Oh, Tiffany's genius," Brad bragged, wrapping an arm around her. "Her project at work is a guaranteed goldmine. We're practically spending the bonus money already." Tiffany smiled modestly. "It's true. I've developed a system that's going to revolutionize banking. Honestly, it was so easy. Some people just have the mind for it, and some don't." She glanced at me. "Camila, be a dear and fetch me another Diet Coke. This heat is wilting me." I stood up to get the soda. As I walked to the cooler, Sarah followed me. "Hey, Mila," she whispered, looking around nervously. "Hey, Sarah, what's up?" Look, I shouldn't tell you this," Sarah fidgeted with her cup, "but I heard Tiffany talking to Brad earlier about the guest list." "Am I uninvited?" I asked, bracing myself. "No," Sarah said. "Worse. She was laughing about how she's going to make you sit at the singles table, but not just singles. She's putting you with Great Uncle Jerry, you know, the one with the hearing aid who eats with his mouth open, and her 3 ex-boyfriends she invited just to make Brad jealous." "Classy," I said. "There's more." Sarah lowered her voice further. "She told me I was too tacky to be a bridesmaid. She said my legs were too thick for the dresses she picked out. She called me a suburban Tao." I looked at Sarah. Her eyes were tearing up. Sarah had always struggled with her body image. "She said that?" "Yeah, to my face. Said she was doing me a favor." Sarah sniffled. "I hate her, Mila. She's fake. I saw her phone earlier. She has a countdown app. It's not counting down to the wedding. It's labeled Freedom Day. The date is 2 weeks after the wedding." "That's when she plans to sell my house," I realized aloud. Sarah's eyes went wide. "What?" "Nothing," I said, putting a hand on Sarah's shoulder. "Listen to me, Sarah. Do you want to see her go down?" Sarah nodded vigorously. "More than anything." "Then I need you to do something for me. At the party, I need you to make sure the projector is working, and I need you to keep your mouth shut until then." "Done," Sarah said. Team Camila. We walked back to the party. Tiffany took the soda from my hand without saying thank you. "Oh, Camila," she said, loud enough for the circle to hear. "I was thinking, since you're struggling with cash, maybe you can help the florist set up on the day of. I can throw you $50. "I'll think about it," I said. "Don't think too hard," she smirked. "You might hurt yourself." My dad laughed. "Good one, Tiff." I looked at my father, the man who taught me to ride a bike, the man who I was currently sheltering. He was laughing at his daughter being treated like hired help. "Enjoy the laugh, Dad," I thought. "It's going to be your last one for a while." 3 days before the party, I met Eleanor Vance. Arthur arranged the meeting in a private suite at the Ritz-Carlton, not at the Vanguard offices, to avoid any chance of running into Tiffany. Eleanor was a striking woman in her 60s, with silver hair cut in a sharp bob and eyes that could cut glass. She sat opposite me, reviewing the dossier I had prepared. "So," Eleanor said, closing the file, "let me get this straight. You are, Ghost, the freelancer who built the Citadel algorithm in 2019. I am, I said. And you are also the majority shareholder of the holding group that signs my paycheck. Technically, yes. Eleanor let out a long breath. And my project manager, Tiffany, has stolen code from you, which she plans to present to me on Saturday as her own creation. Correct. And instead of suing us immediately, you want to put on a show? I want to expose the rot, I said. Tiffany is a symptom, Eleanor. Your hiring practices for middle management are the disease. She's incompetent, unethical, and dangerous. If she had tried to run that stolen code without my kill switch, she would have exposed your entire client database to Russian hackers within a week. Her security protocols were non-existent. Eleanor paled. She's that bad? She's worse. She's been faking her reports for months. She's been outsourcing her work to unpaid interns and claiming the credit. And she's planning to leave the company 6 months after she gets her bonus, taking your trade secrets with her to a competitor. I slid a printed email across the table. It was from Tiffany to a recruiter at a rival firm, offering to bring proprietary Vanguard tech with her. Eleanor read the email. Her face went from pale to red. That little witch, Eleanor hissed. I'm going to fire her right now. No, I said firmly, not yet. If you fire her now, she spins a narrative. She claims discrimination. She claims you stole her ideas. She plays the victim. We need her to hang herself, publicly, irrefutably. The presentation, Eleanor realized. Exactly. Let her present, let her brag, let her take full ownership of the code in front of witnesses. Once she claims it's hers, she's committed fraud. Then, I activate the kill switch. Eleanor looked at me with a newfound respect. You're ruthless. I'm efficient, I corrected. What do you need me to do? Just show up to the engagement party. Be the VIP guest she wants you to be. Stroke her ego, make her feel like she's won. And when the screen goes red, just let me handle the rest. Eleanor extended her hand. Deal. It's an honor to finally meet you, Ghost. Call me Camilla, I said, shaking her hand. See you on Saturday. The day before the party, my phone rang. It was Mom. Hi, sweetie, she said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. That usually meant she wanted something. Hi, Mom. So, about tomorrow night, the engagement party. Yes, I have my dress ready. Right, about that. Listen, Tiffany is really stressed. The catering company is short-staffed. 2 servers called in sick with the flu. That's unfortunate, I said, seeing where this was going. It's a disaster. If the service is slow, it reflects badly on the family, on Brad. Tiffany was wondering, since you're coming anyway and you know how to serve food, you want me to work at my brother's engagement party? I asked. As a waitress? Not a waitress, a guest assistant. You'd just be helping bring out the hors d'oeuvres and clearing glasses. You can wear a nice black outfit, white shirt, black pants, very chic. Mom, I said, my voice trembling slightly, I'm the groom's sister. I know, but think of it as a wedding gift to Brad. He needs this night to be perfect. Tiffany's boss is coming. Investors are coming. We need to look efficient. Besides, you said you didn't have money for a big gift. This would be your contribution. The audacity was breathtaking. They wanted to hide me in plain sight. They wanted me in a uniform so I wouldn't accidentally be mistaken for an equal. And, Mom added, her voice dropping to a whisper, Tiffany said if you help out, she might reconsider let you stay in the house a bit longer before they, make changes. A threat, veiled but clear, serve us or we expedite your eviction. I looked at the garment bag hanging on my door. Inside was a custom-tailored emerald green silk gown from Armani, bought with a card they didn't know existed. Beside it was a velvet box containing a diamond necklace. "Okay, Mom," I said. "I'll do it." "Oh, wonderful. You're a lifesaver, Camilla. Seriously. Wear comfortable shoes. It's a long night." "I will," I said. "I'll wear the most comfortable shoes I own." I hung up. I wasn't going to wear the server uniform all night, but I would wear it for the first hour. I would let them see me as the servant. I would let them treat me like dirt one last time. Because the lower they pushed me down, the higher my ascent would look when I finally stood up. I packed a duffel bag. The server outfit went on top. The Armani gown went underneath, carefully folded in tissue paper. I put the USB drive in the pocket of the gown. "Game time," I whispered. The Grand Oak Country Club was dripping in crystal and orchids. It was a display of wealth that I knew my brother didn't have. He must have maxed out every credit card and taken loans against commissions he hadn't earned yet. I arrived through the service entrance as instructed. The catering manager, a harried man named Marco, looked at my staff badge. "You the sister?" he asked, looking sympathetic. "I'm the help," I corrected him. "Look, the bride, she's a piece of work," Marco muttered. "She yelled at my busboy for looking at her directly. Just keep your head down." "Don't worry, Marco. I'm good at being invisible." I put on the white shirt and black vest. I tied my hair back in a severe bun. I picked up a heavy tray of champagne flutes. The ballroom was filling up. Men in tuxedos, women in glittering gowns. I saw my parents holding court near the entrance. Dad was wearing a tux that was slightly too tight. Mom was in a sequined dress that cost more than my car. I circulated the room. "Champagne? Champagne?" I approached a group of Brad's friends. They didn't even look at me as they took glasses from my tray. To them, I was furniture. Then I saw Tiffany. She was wearing a white gown that looked suspiciously like a wedding dress. She was holding court in the center of the room, clutching Brad's arm. She spotted me. Her eyes lit up with delight. "Oh, excuse me," she said to her group, waving me over. "Girl, waitress, we need drinks here." I walked over. My face burned, but I kept my head bowed. "Champagne, madame." "It's you," Tiffany laughed, playing to the crowd. "Everyone, this is Brad's sister, Camilla. She insisted on helping out tonight. Isn't that sweet? She really knows her place." A few people chuckled nervously. "Camilla, these glasses are spotted," Tiffany said, inspecting a flute. "Did you polish them? I told you, standards matter." "I'm sorry," I murmured. "I'll get fresh ones." "No, wait," she said. She leaned in, her voice dropping so only I and the immediate circle could hear. "My shoe is scuffed. Someone spilled a drop of red wine near the bar and I stepped in it." She extended her foot, a white satin stiletto. "Wipe it off," she commanded. "Tiffany," Brad said, looking slightly uncomfortable. "Maybe not here. Hush, babe. She's the Steph." "It's her job." She looked at me. "Well, wipe it? Or do you want me to tell Mom you're being difficult?" The room seemed to stop. I could feel the eyes on me. This was it. The ultimate degradation. I slowly lowered the tray to a nearby table. I grabbed a napkin. I knelt down. As I reached for her shoe, Tiffany deliberately twitched her foot, kicking the hand that held the napkin. The motion caused me to lose my balance slightly, and my other hand, the one bracing myself, touched the floor. "Oops," Tiffany giggled. "Clumsy. God, Brad, she's embarrassing us." "Just get out of my sight, Camilla. Go to the kitchen and stay there until the speeches start. I don't want you ruining the photos." I stood up. My knees were sore. My pride should have been in tatters. But as I looked at her, laughing, triumphant, surrounded by sycophants, I didn't feel shame. I felt a surge of adrenaline. "As you wish," I said clearly. I turned and walked away. I didn't go to the kitchen. I went to the changing room. It was time to change. The servant was leaving the building. The boss was about to arrive. I stood in the handicap stall of the staff locker room, my heart pounding a rhythm against my ribs that felt like a war drum. The server's uniform, that white shirt stained with the humiliation of the last hour, the black pants that made me feel invisible, lay in a crumpled heap on the tile floor. In its place, I stepped into the emerald green silk Armani gown. It was cool against my skin, sliding over me like liquid armor. I zipped it up, the fabric hugging my waist and flowing down to the floor in a way that screamed power. I pinned the diamond necklace around my neck, a simple, solitaire stone that cost more than Brad's entire car. I took my hair down from the severe bun, letting it fall in soft waves around my shoulders, and applied a coat of deep crimson lipstick. I looked in the mirror. The tired, frumpy Camila the doormat was gone. Staring back at me was the ghost, the architect, the woman who could crash a stock market with a single line of code. I checked my phone. I had a text from Sarah. She's starting. I hooked up the laptop. Good luck. I grabbed my clutch, checked the USB drive in my hand one last time, and walked out. I didn't head for the service entrance. I headed for the main double doors at the back of the ballroom. Inside the ballroom, the lights had dimmed. A spotlight was trained on the small stage where Tiffany stood, clutching a microphone like a scepter. Behind her, a massive projection screen displayed the logo of Project Phoenix. I slipped into the back of the room, staying in the shadows near the sound booth. I spotted Arthur Sterling and Eleanor Vance sitting at the VIP table near the front. Eleanor looked bored, checking her watch. My parents were at the table right next to them, beaming with pride, their faces illuminated by the glow of the screen. "Thank you all for coming." Tiffany's voice boomed over the speakers, slightly too loud. She adjusted her hair, basking in the attention. Tonight isn't just about love. It's about the future. Brad and I are building a legacy, and part of that legacy is my work at Vanguard Tech. She paused for applause. Brad, sitting in the front row, clapped aggressively, signaling his friends to join in. I've spent the last 6 months leading a team of, let's call them support staff, to build a revolutionary AI. Tiffany continued, her voice dripping with false modesty. It's been exhausting, many late nights, but when you have a vision, you have to execute. I'm proud to present the beta test of the Phoenix algorithm. This code will change how we detect financial fraud forever. She gestured to the laptop on the podium. My laptop, the decoy I had let her hack. Now, let's run the simulation. She pressed enter with a flourish. The room went silent in anticipation. On the giant screen, a loading bar appeared. Loading. 20%, 50%, 80%. Tiffany smiled at Eleanor Vance. Watch this, Eleanor. It's seamless. 100%. The screen didn't display the sleek data visualization Tiffany expected. Instead, it went pitch black. A confused murmur rippled through the crowd. Tiffany tapped the keyboard. One moment, just a technical glitch. The Wi-Fi here is terrible. Suddenly, the screen flashed a bright, angry crimson red. Giant block letters appeared, scrolling across the display. Unauthorized access detected. Stolen property of Vanguard Tech Solutions. Source, Camila_private server. Tiffany froze. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Then the audio kicked in. It wasn't the hum of a server. It was a voice recording, clear as a bell. She's a placeholder, Mark, a placeholder until the real owners take over. It was the recording from my hallway, the conversation she had with her lover, Mark. The room gasped. It was a collective intake of breath that sucked the oxygen out of the ballroom. Tiffany scrambled, hitting keys frantically. Stop, turn it off. It's a virus. Someone hacked me. But the presentation didn't stop. A video window popped up. It was the footage from the camera I had hidden in my office. It showed Tiffany, clear as day, sitting at my desk, inserting a USB drive. In the video, she was muttering to herself, "Stupid Camilla, she doesn't even know what she has. I'll just copy this, change the headers, and Eleanor will never know. I'll be VP by Christmas." My father stood up, his face purple. What is this? On stage, Tiffany was trembling. She looked out at the sea of faces, the investors, her boss, her fiancé, my parents. The mask of the successful, benevolent genius was melting away in real time, revealing the thief underneath. "It's a deep fake," she shrieked into the microphone, her voice cracking. "It's AI generated. Someone is trying to sabotage me. Brad, do something." Brad looked around, bewildered, panic rising in his eyes. The screen changed one last time. The red background faded, replaced by a single static image. It was a legal document, a cease and desist order regarding the theft of intellectual property known as Project Aegis. And at the bottom of the document, the owner's signature wasn't Vanguard. It was a holding company, owned by Camila. The text on the screen read, "System locked. Waiting for administrator biometric override." Silence. Absolute, heavy silence. I stepped out of the shadows. The sound of my heels clicking on the hardwood floor was the only noise in the room. Click, click, click. I walked down the center aisle. The emerald dress caught the light, shimmering like deep water. Heads turned. People who had ignored me for 30 years, who had looked right through me an hour ago when I offered them champagne, now stared with slack-jawed amazement. I saw the recognition dawn on their faces. Is that the waitress? Is that the sister? I didn't look at them. My eyes were locked on the stage, on Tiffany. She looked like she was seeing a ghost. Her face had drained of all color, leaving her makeup looking garish and clown-like. "Camila," she whispered, the microphone amplifying her fear. What are you wearing?" I didn't answer. I reached the front of the room. Arthur Sterling stood up, buttoning his tuxedo jacket, and offered me his arm. Eleanor Vance stood up on my other side. Flanked by the billionaire investor and the CEO of Vanguard, I ascended the stairs to the stage. I walked up to the laptop. I placed my thumb on the scanner. Beep. Access granted. The red screen vanished. The video vanished. The screen simply displayed the logo of my holding company, Ghost Architecture. I turned to Tiffany. I was close enough to smell her fear. It smelled like sweat and cheap hairspray. "You said you wanted the administrator," I said, my voice calm, projected clearly by the microphone I took from her trembling hand. "I'm here." "I don't understand," Tiffany stammered, backing away until she hit the podium. You're a freelancer. You do data entry." "I am a freelancer," I agreed, turning to face the crowd. I made eye contact with my mother, whose hand was covering her mouth. "I freelance for the largest banks in the world. I build the infrastructure that companies like Vanguard run on. And Project Phoenix, the code you stole?" I looked back at Tiffany. "It's trash. I wrote that stolen code specifically for you to find. It's a honeypot, a trap for incompetent thieves who don't know how to read syntax. If you had actually written it, you would have seen the line of code that broadcasts your location and records your keystrokes." Eleanor Vance stepped forward. She took the microphone from me. The room was deadly quiet. "Tiffany," Eleanor said, her voice icy, "you stood here and claimed this work was yours. You attempted to defraud this company and our investors. And you did it by stealing from the majority shareholder of our parent company." Majority? What? Tiffany blinked, tears streaming down her face now. No, Eleanor, please. I didn't know. She tricked me. She tested you, Eleanor corrected, and you failed. You're fired, Tiffany, effectively immediately. Our legal team will be in touch regarding the corporate espionage charges. Fired? Tiffany shrieked. She looked at Brad. Brad, help me. Tell them this is a mistake. Brad scrambled up onto the stage. He looked from me to Tiffany to Eleanor. The golden child was tarnished, sweating under the stage lights. Mila, he choked out, what is going on? You own Vanguard? I own the company that owns Vanguard, I corrected. And Brad, you might want to worry less about her job and more about your own situation. What do you mean? I pointed to the back of the room. The double doors had opened again. 2 uniformed officers and a man in a trench coat, Detective Jones, were walking down the aisle. I didn't just find stolen code on Tiffany's computer, Brad, I said softly, so only the people on stage could hear. I found the chat logs between you and your investors. I found the forgery where you signed Dad's name on the loan documents for the wedding venue. That's fraud, Brad, identity theft, and wire fraud. My parents, sitting in the front row, looked like they had been shot. No, Mom wailed. No, not Brad. He's a good boy. He's a criminal, Mom, I said, my voice devoid of pity. And he's been gambling with your money for years. The $50,000 I gave you, he lost it in 3 hours. He didn't pay the debt. He bet it on a horse. Brad lunged at me. You bitch, you ruined everything. Arthur Sterling stepped in front of me, but he didn't need to. The security guards were already there. They grabbed Brad by the arms before he could touch me. Get off me, Brad screamed. Do you know who I am? Yes, I said, looking down at him as they dragged him off the stage. You're the guy who mocked my sweater. The engagement party dissolved into chaos. Guests were scrambling for the exits, phones out, recording the spectacle. It was the social event of the season, just not in the way Tiffany had planned. The police were reading Brad his rights in the corner of the ballroom. Tiffany was sitting on the floor of the stage, weeping into her tulle skirt, ruined mascara streaming down her face like black tears. I walked down the stairs, Arthur and Eleanor by my side. My parents intercepted me. They looked old, suddenly incredibly old. The arrogance, the smug superiority they had worn just an hour ago was gone, replaced by a desperate, pathetic confusion. Camila, Dad said, his voice shaking. He reached out to touch my arm, but I stepped back. Camila, honey, is it true? Are you rich? I looked at him. That was his first question. Not, are you okay? Not, I'm sorry we treated you like garbage. But, are you rich? Yes, Robert, I said. I didn't call him Dad. I am extremely wealthy. Oh, thank God, Mom sobbed, trying to grab my hand. Then you can fix this. You can pay the lawyers for Brad. You can talk to the police. You have power now. You have to save the family. Save the family? I laughed. It was a dry, hollow sound. Mom, an hour ago, you asked me to wipe Tiffany's shoe. You told me to stay in the kitchen so I wouldn't embarrass you. You conspired with them to sell my house, the house Grandma left me, and put you two in a nursing home. We didn't know, Mom pleaded. We didn't know they were going to do that. We thought they loved us. You didn't care if they loved you, I said brutally. You cared that they looked successful. You cared about the image. You loved the lie, Mom, and you hated the truth because the truth wore a gray sweater and cooked your dinner. Please, Camila, Dad begged. "We're your parents. We have nothing. If Brad goes to jail, the debts, they'll take our retirement. They'll take everything." "They won't take everything," I said. Hope flared in their eyes. "They won't take the house," I continued, "because it's mine. But you two, you're leaving." "What?" Mom whispered. "I'm selling the house," I lied. Actually, I was just going to lock it up and let it sit empty, but they didn't need to know that. "I'm moving, and you have 30 days to find somewhere else to live. I suggest you ask Tiffany." Oh wait, she's unemployed. "You can't do this," Dad shouted, his face reddening again. "After everything we did for you, we raised you." "You tolerated me," I corrected. "You raised Brad. Look how that turned out." I turned to Arthur. "I'm ready to go." "Camila!" Mom screamed after me as we walked toward the exit. "You ungrateful brat! You cold-hearted bitch! You'll die alone!" I stopped. I didn't turn around. I just spoke loud enough for her to hear. Better to be alone in a villa than crowded in a prison cell. We walked out into the cool night air. The valet brought Arthur's car around. Behind me, the sounds of my mother's wailing and the police sirens created a symphony of consequences. I took a deep breath. The air didn't smell like roast chicken or cheap wine anymore. It smelled like freedom. 6 months later. The sun over Tuscany hits differently than the sun in Ohio. It feels heavier, warmer, like a golden blanket. I sat on the terrace of the villa I had rented, indefinitely, overlooking the vineyards of Chianti. My laptop was open on the wrought iron table, next to a glass of Brunello and a plate of olives. I wasn't coding. I was reading the news. Local real estate agent sentenced to 3 years for fraud. Brad had taken a plea deal. He gave up the names of his investors in exchange for a lighter sentence, but his reputation was incinerated. He would never sell a house again. Tiffany had avoided jail time by turning state's witness against Brad, claiming he coerced her, but the industry blacklisted her. Vanguard had sued her for breach of contract, and she was currently working as a shift manager at a retail chain in the mall, the same mall where she used to shop for Prada. And my parents? I opened my email. There it was, the weekly email from Linda_mother@yahoo.com. Subject, please call. Camila, please. The apartment is so small. The mold is affecting your father's chest. We know we made mistakes, but we are family. We miss you. We love you. Just a small loan until Dad's pension clears, please. I hovered my mouse over the delete button. For years, that email would have sent me into a spiral of guilt. I would have sent the money. I would have tried to buy the love they refused to give freely. But I remembered the dinner. I remembered the shoe. I remembered the placeholder. I didn't feel anger anymore. I didn't feel hate. I just felt detached, like they were characters in a book I had finished reading, a sad, boring book. I selected the email, I clicked delete, then I clicked block sender. I closed the laptop. Arthur Sterling was flying in tomorrow. We were discussing a new project, using AI to help track illegal poaching in Africa, something that actually mattered, something good. I took a sip of the wine. It was rich, complex, and lingered on the tongue. I had spent my whole life trying to be the perfect daughter, trying to earn a seat at a table where I wasn't wanted. I thought I was fighting for their approval. I didn't realize I was fighting for my life. I looked out at the rolling hills, the cypress trees standing tall against the blue sky. To the gray sweater, I toasted softly to the empty air. I drank, I smiled, and for the first time in 32 years, the silence wasn't lonely. It was peaceful. Thank you for listening to my story. I'm truly grateful you're here. If you made it this far, please comment the letter A below so I know you're one of the few who appreciate real justice. And don't forget to click the next video on the screen to hear another story of karma served cold. You won't want to miss it.